Understanding that Joe Biden has called for an emergency meeting and he's offered full US support and assistance with Poland's investigation and reaffirmed the US's ironclad commitment to the NATO. So that's the latest that we're learning so far. We're also understanding that President Joe Biden spoke with President Duda of Poland and expressed his deep condolences for the loss of life in eastern Poland. President Duda described Poland's ongoing assessment of the explosion that took place in the eastern part of the country near the border with Ukraine. Now, this was, of course, said in a statement by the White House. In fact, we can see those visuals as well on your screens with the fact that now that we're learning that Biden has called for this emergency meeting with the G7, the NATO leaders, after Poland says that the Russian-made missile, killed 2 in the country. And earlier, of course, the Polish government had summoned the Russian ambassador to the country, claiming that a Russian-made missile had fallen in the country, killing 2 citizens. Now, in a statement, in fact, Polish Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lukasz Czesina has also demanded immediate detailed explanations on the incident. So following that, of course, the reaction coming in where Joe Biden has called for this emergency meeting with G7 and NATO leaders after Poland had said that the Russian-made missile had killed 2 in the country. In fact, just talking about this development as well, we're understanding that he had also spoken to the President Duda of Poland and, of course, expressed his deep condolences for the loss of life in eastern Poland earlier. Also, US President, of course, convened an emergency meeting of the G7 and the NATO leaders in Indonesia for consultations after the NATO ally Poland said a Russian-made missile killed 2 people in the eastern part of its country near the Ukraine border. Now, remember, all these global leaders are, of course, currently attending the G20 summit, which is currently underway in Bali, Indonesia. So, those are the visuals, exclusive visuals that we're also getting where Biden has chaired this emergency meet along with G7 and NATO leaders in Indonesia for consultations after the NATO ally Poland, of course, did say that this Russian-made missile killed 2 people in the eastern part of its country. So that's the first step that Joe Biden has, of course, taken. In fact, just to talk about this particular incident as well, after the incident, of course, Joe Biden spoke to Poland's president as well, Andrzej Duda, and of course offered his deep condolences for the loss of life in this unfortunate incident. In fact, President Duda also told Joe Biden, is what we're learning, that he described Poland's ongoing assessment of the explosion that took place in the eastern part of the country near the border with Ukraine. So, of course, those are the first exclusive visuals that we're getting for you on Republic TV, where Joe Biden has called for this emergency meeting. In fact, we're also understanding, on the other hand, that Rishi Sunak has also reacted about this, where in a tweet he said that this country was urgently looking into reports of a missile strike in Poland and will support allies as they establish what happened. We are coordinating with our international partners, including NATO, is what Sunak has said. But of course, on one hand, you can see the visuals of the damage that the strike, of course, caused. And on the other hand, where Biden has called for an emergency meet along with G7 and NATO leaders in Indonesia. This is, of course, at a time where the global leaders are in Indonesia for the G20 summit. And the president of the US, Joe Biden, has, of course, called for this emergency meeting and is looking for consultations after the NATO ally Poland did state that a Russian-made missile killed 2 people in the eastern part of its country near the Ukraine border. Of course, we'll have to wait and watch what other decisions they do take after this particular emergency meet that has been called. But on the other hand, we're also understanding more reactions that are coming in, where now Secretary Antony Blinken has also said that he spoke this morning from Bali with Polish Foreign Minister Rao and Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba regarding the explosion in eastern Poland. And they have, of course, pledged to remain closely coordinated in the days ahead as the investigation proceeds and they're determining the appropriate next steps. So those are, of course, the reactions that are coming in as well. But at a time when this unfortunate incident has transpired, claiming the life of two lives, All right. We have Professor Madhav Nalapat joining us on the broadcast as well. Good morning, Professor Nalapat. My question, of course, to you would be with the fact that now President Joe Biden has called for an emergency meeting of the G27 and NATO leaders in Bali for the strike. How will you see this, and what will be the agenda of this meeting according to you?
Look, I'd like to say that this is an accident waiting to happen, and if it were an accident at all, the reality of the situation is that if the NATO countries enter into a full-blown kind of a conflict with Russia, the consequences are going to be disastrous not only for themselves, but for the rest of the world. They have been playing with fire, frankly, by pumping fuel into Ukraine to keep this war going, and now finally the fire is reaching their own shores. So in my opinion, this should be a wake-up call. I don't think there'll be a wake-up call, frankly, for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is completely, Anne Applebaum and all these other individuals who are Russophobic, and they're out to completely try and cripple Russia. And in the process, they are basically creating a situation where a huge conflict can come. The fact is that even the world wars began with sparks, small sparks, and they entered into a conflagration. This may not be that kind of a spark, but frankly, calling all the NATO leaders, what are they going to do? Are they going to attack Russia? A complete nuclear armed power? Are they going to allow, a situation in which their own borders are under attack, especially in the Baltic states and Poland? I have been predicting for quite some time that the Baltic states and Poland are at high risk of accidental or otherwise a Russian attack. And now, finally, that seems to be happening. The sooner the Western powers understand that this situation is, frankly, needing to be stopped, and now, the sooner they do that, the better I think it will be for global peace and stability.
All right. Thank you, Professor Madhav Nalapat, for joining us on the broadcast and, of course, giving us your viewpoints over there. Well, this is at a time, of course, where Joe Biden has called for this emergency meet with G7 and NATO leaders. This, of course, comes after Poland says that the Russian-made missile killed 2 in the country. We'll continue to track that particular story and get more reactions and developments on that. But moving on to more news that's coming.